Hello, today I will be presenting the development of my character, Carl Fredricksen. He is one of the main characters from the Disney movie Up. The movie shows Carl at different stages of his life, and he is a balloon salesman when he is a young adult. He is portrayed as an elderly man for the majority of the movie, who is approximately 70 years of age. He becomes a widower and decides to travel to Paradise Falls with his house like he had planned to with his wife before her passing. Carl's character ultimately develops as he meets other main characters throughout his journey. Here are some photos of Carl at different stages in his life. I have a photo of him as a kid, a photo of him as a young adult, and as an elderly man. For Carl's development, Carl has impaired hearing, so he wears a hearing aid, and beginning at a young age, he had limited vision, so he wears glasses. He does not have enough strength and balance to stand and move on his own, which is why he carries a walker around with him. However, even with the decreasing physical development, he still has pretty good hand-eye coordination. Another physical development he's developed as he ages is that he now wears dentures. And ultimately, he begins to redevelop gross motor skills throughout the movie. So towards the end of the movie, he's able to run, jump, and walk easily without having to use his walker. Carl develops and reaches the post-conventional stage of Kohlberg's theory of moral development. Specifically, he reaches the universal ethical principle stage. This is seen in the movie when Carl decides to save a bird's life, and the bird is another main character. Russell, this little boy right here, really cares for the bird and wants to take care of the bird and make sure the bird isn't captured. Initially, Carl doesn't really care, but he decides to make this decision based on his set of principles, which include equality and justice. Carl has also reached the third position of Jeligen's morality of care, so the decisions he's making towards the end of the movie are not just based on his needs anymore, and they are made in consideration of everyone's needs, including his own. He develops self-efficacy because he believes that he is able to succeed in the things that he chooses to do. For example, he believed in himself and that he could succeed in traveling to Paradise Falls using his house as his form of transportation. Carl also develops self-regulation as he learns to be more patient. He often decides when he wants to be involved in a situation, and he'll take himself out of the situation if he doesn't want to be involved. Therefore, he is in total control and can regulate his actions and emotions very well. Carl's motivation ultimately comes from wanting to meet his esteem needs and love and belonging needs from Maslow's hierarchy of needs. For example, he decides to go on this trip because he wants to achieve the goals that he had planned with his wife. So achievement is for his esteem, and he wants to connect with his wife. Going there is something personal to him, so it's love and belongingness for him. He also has intrinsic motivation because everything he does in the movie is because he genuinely enjoys it, and he's not doing anything for a reward. So when he goes on this trip to Paradise Falls, it's because he genuinely likes to travel and explore just like his wife did, and he's not really going for a reward because there isn't a real reward for him besides a good feeling. Carl also has 2 basic desires from Stephen Rice's 16 basic desires list. He desires honor, so being faithful to the customary values of him and his wife, which is why he decides to go on this journey. And he also desires independence. This is shown at the beginning of his trip because his plan was to go to Paradise Falls by himself and be self-reliant. However, things didn't end up being that way. The little boy Russell, who is another main character and a little scout boy, happened to be on his porch that day and went on this journey with him. Carl experiences a change in behavior after observing how all the other main characters treat each other and take care of each other. So he watches Russell the scout boy take care of the dog and the bird, and he sees how they react back to Russell. And then he changes his behavior. In the beginning, he's a lot more depressed and hard-headed, but he does soften up a little bit towards the end. And this is an example of Bandura's social cognitive theory. Carl is in Piaget's formal operational stage because he thinks very abstractly and uses logic to come up with creative solutions to his problems. For example, he decided to tie many balloons on top of his home so that it could fly and be his form of transportation for his journey. As mentioned earlier, the movie portrays Carl at different stages of his life. Therefore, he can be compared to many of Erikson's stages of psychosocial development. He experiences both intimacy and isolation in this movie. We see that he's going through intimacy when he is getting married and the flashbacks we see of him and his wife. But when his wife passes away, he experiences isolation. Carl also experiences generativity as he grows to like the little boy Russell and want to support and assist him in his scout journey. So he helps him in many different ways, and he realizes that Russell is the new generation and he wants to give back. Lastly, we see him going through ego integrity at the end when he's looking back at his life and his achievements and accepting the way he lived his life. In Deci and Ryan's self-determination theory, Carl needed the relatedness aspect of it. Although he didn't initially realize it, he needed to connect with others in order to feel happy and to reach the ego integrity stage of accepting his life. If I was Carl's teacher, I would include differentiated instruction for him because he is visually impaired and he has to wear glasses and he has trouble hearing too. So I would provide visual communication, so maybe through sign language if he uses it, present my lectures into visual formats such as PowerPoints and handouts, and I would make the course materials available in text form, which may be easier for him if he's struggling to hear. And I would also provide transcripts of audio information so that he can easily understand like the other students will. I would provide big print handouts. This would help him with his vision. And I would give the students the option to show their understanding and participate silently. Carl is not the type of person to really talk as much. He is pretty quiet and to himself because he lives by himself. And I feel like he would probably struggle to participate in class and be a little bit more shy. So I would use methods like using the thumbs up and down, or put a finger up if you think this is the answer, to have him silently participate in the class, just so I know that he's still learning. I would like to incorporate the universal design for learning into my classroom, especially for people like Carl. Engagement is important, to use his interests and help create activities that can reach out to different groups of students just like Carl. And representation is also very important. Because he struggles to see and hear, I need to be able to represent my content in many different forms to help students like Carl. Action and expression is something that I would also like to have because Carl learns differently and he will need extra support, and I will need to provide scaffolds for him. So I also think that giving him the opportunity to present his learning in different formats will be what works best for him. And that is the end of my presentation.